So let's take a look at how to complete a reading response. So this is the boy with buttery hands, and as you can see, I was underlining, highlighting, and taking notes of what I was thinking as I was going. So if you're reading, you're probably not going to have this in the book because you're not going to write in the book, but what you can do is use sticky notes along the way for parts that stick out to you. So I'm going to be using The Boy with Buttery Hands by W.M. Akers. So I can put my name right here, and I can put the title, and then the author, W.M. Akers, and then for the genre, I would say this is realistic fiction, because I don't think this is a true story, but it's realistic enough that it could happen. So now that I have this filled out, and I could even put today's date, now I'm going to start to go over here. So the strategy that I'm going to use is I was forming an interpretation here. So I'm going to put FI and form an interpretation. The sentence starter says, to me, this means, and then because. So it was me making meaning about certain clues. So the page is the first page. And the part that made it stand out for me was he wasn't hungry, but he figured he might as well look at some food. And then later it said Johnny didn't even have it in him to slide down the hall. So that's when I was forming an interpretation, which is right here. And I said that Johnny sounds very unmotivated, he's bored, but it's his own fault. So right here it says, what do you notice? What made you stop and think? And the paragraphs, I'm going to say 1 and 2, because it's this paragraph and this paragraph. So here, it's my job to write evidence. Now, I want to make sure that I put in some background information so that people know what I'm talking about. So to give them a little bit of background, I can say, this is a story about a boy who is home alone on a rainy day. Just to give them some background, they know kind of what the story is about. And then I can say in the text, it says, and I'll put a comma and a space. And then I'm actually going to take the quote here. So I'll do that he wasn't hungry, but he figured he might as well look at some food. And since I'm going to do a quote, I'm going to do exactly those words. So I typed that here. And then I can say in the next paragraph, it also says, and then I'm going to add this quote. Johnny didn't even have it in him to slide down the hall. Because I feel like both of those two sentences are forming the same interpretation for me, that he's bored, but he's so bored that he won't even do anything, and it's really his own fault. He has some ideas, but he's not even using them to make himself, feel better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in over here, and I'm just going to, I see that I'm running out of room, so I'm actually going to make this smaller. And then zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so far I said this story is about a boy who was home alone on a rainy day. In the text it says, he wasn't hungry, but he figured he might as well look at some food. In the next paragraph it also says, Johnny didn't even have it in him to slide down the hall. Now this might be a little bit confusing to somebody reading this if they haven't read the story. So I'm going to add a little bit more detail here so that they have background. So I can say in the next paragraph, he thought about sliding around in his socks, but take that out of the way. But Johnny didn't even have it in him to slide down the hall. Okay, So I have two pieces of evidence there. I have it in quotes. I put it exactly in quotes from exactly what the text said. I put quotation marks on the outside. I put a comma and a space before, put the period on the inside. Okay, now I'm going to talk about what strategy I used. I can say I used, whoops. So I said I used form and interpretation because this helps me get an idea of who Johnny is and what he is like. Now I need to explain. So based on this evidence, it seems like I was saying before that he has some ideas of things that he could do, but he's just very lazy and he doesn't have much motivation. And so he's not really solving his problem. So I said he seems like he has some ideas of fun activities, but he's too lazy to actually do any of them. He's not taking action to solve this problem. Now, what does this mean? How does this help you understand the text? Well, this helps me understand more about who he is, which can help me make predictions about what he's going to do in the future. So I wrote, this helps me understand more about Johnny's character. I know he is bored, but he's not in the mood to do any of the regular activities he can think of. This, and the foreshadowing at the beginning of the story, helps me predict that he will make a bad choice in the future because he keeps rejecting good choices to solve his boredom. So I really had to think more about, well, what does this mean? It means that he's bored, but it also means that, he is choosing not to do regular activities, which means that maybe in the future he'll choose something that's wrong, which we know is what happens, right? Why is that important to the text? Why did the author include it? So this is important because it presents a problem, and then this is where the rising action is. So I'm really thinking about the plot and how it helps me understand the plot and the character and the theme of the story. So that's what I'm going to write about right here. So I had to make this a little smaller because I had a lot to say. I said this is important because we know this is not an ordinary day and something different will happen. It helps me understand the text because I know what Johnny is like, so I can see why he makes bad choices in the future. The author wrote about a character like this to teach the reader a lesson and show them what not to be like. Okay, so this is really showing me, this part where you're going to write is going to show me how you really understand what you're reading and the bigger impact of what you're reading. Okay, so if I zoom out, then you can see I have multiple sentences in each section. I had to make the text a little bit smaller to fit, but that's showing that I'm really spending time and effort thinking about what I'm reading. And this is what I'm going to be looking for in your reading responses.